Oh, really?
I used to work in Illinois.
Oh.
So.
I will call the school committee meeting for April 28th to order. If we could stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll start with introduction of members.
I'm Jane Reggio from Millville.
Carrie Gaudette from Blackstone.
Dan Keefe, Blackstone.
Chuck Dunton, Blackstone.
Tara Larkin, Millville.
Tammy Lemieux, Blackstone.
Erin Binaco, Millville.
Madison Marchand, Blackstone.
Matt Aaronworth, Assistant Superintendent.
Jason DeFalco, Superintendent.
Thank you very much. And we'll start with our student rep update.
So NHS, the MTC pool, was able to raise $1,500 for the food pantry, which is very exciting. NHS is also hosting their teacher appreciation next week, so we're making little cards for all the teachers and then an ice cream treat on Friday. Then the girls softball team has only lost one game, so they're 5-1 right now, and the boys have won one game, so they're 1-5. And then their senior games are, the boys is the 13th and the girls are the 19th. And then we have our mock crash next Wednesday, right before prom. And then AP exams are starting up, and prom is next Friday, May 6th. And that's it.
Great.
Yeah.
Any questions? Or how many prom tickets were sold, do you know?
I don't know. They were.
Where is it?
It's the Crown Plaza in Warwick.
Oh,
Yeah.
ooh la la.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Do you have all your arrangements made?
Yes, everything's good to
What
go.
color's your dress?
Black,
Oh.
and I have pink
Long
heels.
ride.
Classy.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
a long ride.
It's like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not too bad.
No, but
Pretty. Is it inside or outside?
I believe inside.
They have a nice tent off
Yeah,
of the building.
our prom,
Yeah,
we have our prom there every year, and ours is in the tent.
It is.
We've never been inside.
Oh,
I mean, to go to the bathroom.
yeah.
Yes, but we've heard stories about that.
Yeah.
Any other
Have
questions?
fun.
Thanks.
Yeah, have
Not
fun
with
at
your
prom.
AP exams, but with your prom.
Those
Have
will
fun
be
with
so
your
fun.
AP exams too.
Oh, thank you.
So if Jane's not going to ask, I'll ask, how many days left for the seniors?
20 or 21.
What is the date of the last day?
It's May 27th,
And then senior week is
the week after.
planned. Great.
Yeah.
All right.
When we graduate.
Thank you very much. So we have you coming back for
May 2nd.
our meeting on the 12th
Yes.
and maybe the 26th.
Yeah, I'll come back 26th.
No pressure.
back to
we
us.
can work. Yeah.
No, I'll be here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda are the warrants and minutes for the meeting from April 7th. Are we okay to move those together, or did anyone want to separate them? I will look for a motion on consent agenda A.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Tammy and second by Carrie. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? And any nays? Okay, unanimous. And then we will move to public forum. However, I don't know that we'll be joined by anyone. School committee, we have a capital planning update from our chair of capital planning.
Yes, so the statement of interest was submitted. We will hear sometime in July if we are accepted. And basically, that's the update there. We're just pretty much in a waiting game. And Matt does have a capital working group going. There's members from each town, and they're going to try to have their first meeting next week.
And that is to look at,
So the capital working group that we put together is a smaller group of, I think there's going to be 5 of us. So there's one representative from each town, myself, Scott, and a community member, Mr. Plant, who was from the original subcommittee. And we're going to be taking the capital improvement projections for the costs of the various projects that we see coming down the pike. And we're going to just, again, they've been prioritized, but to just have people from each town and the district sitting at a table to go through the items that have been prioritized and see which ones we want to move forward to the towns to bring for capital projects. So we'll say, for example, I may just totally do away with our meeting next week, but one of the bigger pieces initially is the paving at the middle school. So, that's one of the priorities for that first year. So we're going to look at the different priorities that have been identified and just see if we think it's possible to move one of them or 2 of them forward to the towns, and if so, which ones.
Matt, may I join that group? I think I volunteered for that group, but I haven't heard anything on that group.
Oh, you certainly
May
may.
I? Because that's the one that we talked about, be aware you might walk on a roof. Is
Yeah,
that the group?
possibly.
Hopefully not.
Not
I think we've
required.
done all the roof
There's
walking.
no,
Yes, I really
there's
want
no
to be-
roof walking. There is no roof walking
Yeah.
required.
I remember, we were just joking about that. But if you can include me in
Yeah,
those
we can.
emails, and
We can.
hopefully, I don't know what day you're working, you're meeting, that is always my challenge.
Yeah.
Do not go up in dress shoes.
I'm gonna dress like Aaron next time we have that meeting.
actually, my shoes are pretty comfy, just so you know.
Be careful.
Our roofs are good, right?
Be careful.
They are pretty new.
Oh, my turn?
All right, yes, review Section A of the School Committee Policy Manual. Tammy?
Okay, so Section A of the policy, I'm going to start by saying that we're going to remove Section ADF, which is the district wellness policy, from today's packet, because that is going to require a little bit more discussion. That policy was updated many moons ago to include some language about the scenario if a student has a balance on their lunch account and what happens. And at one point in time in history, if you had a negative balance, then you weren't allowed to get a typical lunch. You had to get a sunflower sandwich or something. I'm not quite sure what exactly it was, but it was, there was some negative connotation to it. The sitting school committee at that point did change it, but the language never quite got finalized into the actual policy manual. So for today, we're going to remove it for all intents and purposes for today. Section AA, the school district legal status. This section is updated to just say that we're a regional school district versus a typical school district. And I just wanted to note for the group that the changes that are made are in alignment with what MASC has recommended in most cases. So this language is changed to match what they recommend. And several years ago now, Jane and MASC went through and got this policy updated. Now we're just further updating. So just for the history. AB, it's just a typo fix for that. And is this where I say as written? Oh, the only when we approve it, right?
Yeah, well, when you make a motion, but that's
Okay.
okay, yeah.
All right. AC, policy, non-discrimination policy, including harassment and retaliation. This is a section that is being updated to coincide with regulations and language that MASC had submitted to the district. So in this case, the entire previously written policy is replaced with the MASC language. In your packet, what is in red print is new, and obviously what's crossed out is what is coming out. So that's a big change. Policy ACR, I believe that this is a total new addition.
Yeah, there's no cross.
Yeah, so this is a total new addition that goes along with the MASC suggestions in the area of non-discrimination and harassment. ACA, that's an update, a slight update that just includes the language of sexual orientation or gender identity to go along again with the MASC update. Policy ACAB is replaced in its entirety. And so we have what is removed and then what is added.
Tammy, can I add one piece?
Sure.
Underneath policy ACR,
Oh, that's
the
right.
back, we have the updated, that has the actual district information. So who's in charge of the civil rights, work, who's in charge of 504, ADA. So we actually have the handout.
And that's
to
what you
replace that.
received today. It's separate from the, what came in our packet to our houses.
It would go right in this piece here.
Well, I might have
No,
it.
it's right here.
I was gonna say I have two. If anybody needs it, I have it.
Sorry to interrupt, Tammy.
No, that's good. I forgot. I would have gotten to it later. So ACABA, that is another one that is replaced in its entirety. ACE was reviewed recently by MASC. No updates were needed. AD is our mission statement. That is not MASC language, but the school district language. Am I going too fast? I hear everybody
No, there were just a
shuffling
lot of
quickly.
pages.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
The last one,
Sorry. I'll slow down.
all the crossed out.
Mission statement, no changes.
No. That would be something we would change internally versus an MASC recommendation.
And may change after the blueprint is done,
Yes,
so there may be
I
revisited.
think it probably will, yeah.
File ADC, tobacco products on school premises prohibited. We, at one point, added, vape cigarettes and e-cigarettes. MASC has now included a whole bunch of other things that apparently people do.
That exists, that we
Electronic
never heard of.
pipes and similar products of
To be more
vaporization and aerosolation. So that is updated just to be more inclusive. File ADDA, background checks. That section, I do not believe has any, it just had a typo that I fixed under the query requirements. Just had some weird gibberish.
And Tammy, can I just add one piece?
Sure.
Because it's not in the mask language, and it's not necessarily required, but just so the school committee knows, we also run DCF checks. So if you had
On volunteers or on staff?
on staff, so if you apply to work with us, we do the fingerprints, Corey's, but we also run a DCF check, just to make sure that there was never an issue with a 51A, or if there was something that, you can have a 51A filed,
So,
but not be charged with a felony.
so if
That's
the
important.
policy is going to be our manual for staff, if we're gonna refer people to our policies,
We
we
should
should
include
list
that.
that. I don't know.
I agree.
Okay, so, for ADDA will be further amended
To include DCA.
to include the DCF check.
Yeah, and it's just an
That
extra
is
level
what we
of
do.
precaution.
Okay. Policy ADDA-R, an DCJIS model Corey policy, and that has not changed. Policy ADF is what we're going to take out of today's discussion. and look at that further. And then, you okay?
Which one did you just say?
ADF, which is the
Okay. I
wellness
remember.
policy. And then file AE, there are no changes.
So I think just to update newer members, and Jane, if you could help me with this. How many years ago did we go through MASC to update
2017?
everything? And are we still in, so they're sending us these, how many years were we given with them, with the computer system, and was that
So we pay an annual fee.
an annual?
Yeah, so we paid a fee initially for MASC to work with us to review our whole entire policy manual.
Which
We went
definitely we
through
needed.
Yes, because we hadn't done some in years. And so we did that, and then there was a fee for that, which put it into their data system. And then we pay an annual fee to keep it in the data system.
Which gave us great access on our website. You click on it, you directed right to the policies that we're updating here. And as you heard Tammy say several times, as MASC recommended. So we're getting them directly from them and keeping them updated by being part of that process, which up until 2017, we did not do. So,
What's their fee?
What's what?
Their fee?
what do we pay for the yearly fee?
So, back in the day, it was about $950, but what it is now, I got.
We paid, in 2017, we paid for the service to revamp, and that was something we all voted on to do. But to say what we're paying annually,
Yeah.
yeah.
So-
I may have it, I do have it.
I would say well worth it, whatever it is, because
Yeah, I think I might have it here.
up until 2017, we had a three-ring binder that was handed to any new committee member, or if someone wanted to see our policies, they were not digital.
And not
And
searchable.
they were in that binder, some dated back to
1986.
the 80s, maybe even 70s, and not updated properly. So it has definitely helped us, keep up with that. I think
Is there some point where we don't have to pay them that fee anymore?
I don't,
we wouldn't get these updates either, though.
yeah, I think their service may have gone down. I say I don't know what it is now, and it may have gone down because more schools are now using it. Now they have the majority of institutions in the state of Massachusetts.
It hasn't changed much. It's $9.69.
Okay, so there you
That is what
go.
has been budgeted.
So, $969. They never talked about a time at which it would not be charged. It would be worth a conversation with our representative to see what their plan is, but I think the service that it provides in terms of being searchable, in terms of being digital, in terms of being able to access any other district, we've looked up a lot of, well, what does the other district have for this policy, or what does so-and-so do for this? Kind of has been invaluable through the course of time. So I would still encourage paying the fee, but it's probably worth the conversation to see if that's a fee for eternity or.
I think that's how it quickly gets outdated too. Just this top one for reference, AA, I mean, all we did was update regional school versus, and things like that would be so overlooked without them providing that service. So, I mean, and then just to talk about $900 when we get into budget issues and we're searching, that usually those line items don't help for what we're trying to make up for. So it's not something we look at
I'm
usually.
not trying to make a big deal of it.
No, I know, I'm just explaining the process and how we got here, just so everyone understands. So, with that being said, do we want to motion for, Or does everyone want time to read through them and we can put it on the next agenda? We'd just be tabling, today we'd be tabling ADDA, ADF, and those two. And,
We have it on the agenda as not a vote, though.
yeah, but we can do it if we need to, or we can wait until these are updated and do all of section A. Any
Will you have
preference?
those changed for next meeting and vote on them, or do we need more time than that?
Well, I
Like,
think,
should this
I
get
think
voted on?
I think that ADF has to come for a discussion.
ADF is supposed to, we're supposed to
wellness
have a
policy.
wellness committee. And I think the last time we had somebody serve on it, it was Jack, so how long has it been since Jack has been gone? But I don't know that the wellness committee has met. It's the food service, it's a community representative, it's a student representative, and in our policies, and in state law, that group is supposed to meet and gather, and so any wellness policy for that particular one, we can change food service things like, how we track past due bills or whatever in a different policy, but anything from that, for that ADF, has to come through that wellness committee. So it's really is probably time that, and the previous food service director, not the current one, the previous one, was really strong on gathering that group, and I think when she left, that was kind of the
That Jean?
last time the group gathered.
It was Linnea.
Oh, Linnea.
And then COVID hit, so things.
Yeah, that's what
crazy.
happened. We were transitioning
guessing-
members
No,
of the
who was
group.
before Lynette? Who was?
It was Jean Sheridan.
It was
Jean
Jean. It was
Sheridan
Jean.
was prior.
Yeah, it was
Well,
Jean who
oh.
was the strong advocate for
Okay.
making sure we had a wellness.
Because I know we did meet with
And then
Linnea.
Yeah,
Because I
I
just-
think we did. I think,
We-
because Tracy
Revisions.
Ducharme, I think, took
Yep.
over
It
as
was
chair.
Tracy, Karen was
Yep,
there.
yeah,
So we met a
yeah.
few times with Linnea, but then COVID hit after,
Yeah.
there was the transition and then COVID hit. and
Yeah.
it-
So my guess is you could do all of A without ADF
Yeah.
and try to get a wellness committee back together to look at ADF and the changes there.
Well, I think we could do what we have today and table ADF and ADDA. I was gonna say that wrong. And, that way we don't have to come back to this and we can
Go to
even, and
section
do
B.
those separately. Are we going through all of them? Okay. So with that being
Every 5 years,
said,
we're supposed to relook at our manual.
looking for a motion tabling ADF and ADDA. If anyone would like to.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
All right, so motion to approve the review of Section A, tabling ADF and ADDA. Motion is made by Dan and second by Tara. Any other discussion?
I just want to ask Jane a clarifying point. So ADF is in this, is not what was last voted on.
It is not.
And so the question is, should we be getting it to where it was last voted on? And then, because the wellness committee already approved what was last voted on, so it should be there.
It should be in there.
But
What was
we know
last
that we
voted
have a
on
legal issue
should-
within that.
Right, should be in there. What was voted on by the wellness committee and by the school committee should be in there. It is not.
I have it.
So we have two options. We can either put it in and then amend it from there, or we can create a whole new one and amend to the new one regardless of what was there before. So you have two options.
So, I mean, I think that it should be where we left it,
What was approved.
what was
Yes.
approved,
Yeah.
and then the wellness committee would
Can
pick up
amend
from
from there.
From there.
I guess the question is if we know that part of it is, you're not, so the part that is not
Legal?
legal, is that at some point, the policy that was approved said that if you didn't pay your lunch balance, you could not get your diploma. And so we could not.
We changed
Did we
that.
change that after?
Because that was Bill,
Yeah.
and we changed that because we knew that that was illegal.
When we
Well, and
looked at it
also
at 19?
the language around, and so there's, I feel like, because there's like two pieces. There's the policy, and then the part we're really discussing is the, Tammy, what is that titled? The food service?
Student food services account, but it
Account
is listed
ADF.
as a policy.
Yeah.
That's the part
The
that we're
document
discussing.
that says
Yeah.
policy.
And did you
Yeah.
find E? Did you find EDF or ED, whatever
No,
one the food policy
that's not
one
there.
was?
But this isn't,
That's very out of date as far as, you know, contacting the Attorney General's office,
so I feel like this was
the DA's office. if they're-
pre-MASC.
I mean, it's not, we would never do
It says
that.
approved 4/12/17. That, if that was the year we were doing the overhaul.
Well, we looked at it at
We
19
looked at
as
it,
well.
and, yeah. We looked at it because we knew we had to fix the, what was illegal. And I swear we fixed it, but nobody, and I have
I-
notes that say we have to find it.
And I have
Like
the
we've
Google
never-
document from 6/15/2020.
That we changed or we didn't change?
It's not, it's that, it's the
Yeah,
same one,
see,
so
don't,
I know
like-
we looked at it, because I have it, I
Yeah,
have
I
the
know
Google
we
doc.
did, but I don't know,
There's
we
no
don't seem
different
to
language
have.
on it.
It was the very beginning of our Zoom meetings.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
that's right.
Yeah, it was. We all have the dates, we all have,
It's on the
notes,
agendas,
but
it's
we
on the
don't
notes,
have-
it's on the,
so I,
no change language.
my sense is to leave what, or my gut says, leave what's in there, have the wellness committee start with a policy that comes back to the school committee with proposed changes for food service, whatever, components, and do a whole new policy that goes in. Should there be a dispute or an issue that comes up in the time in between, you'd have to go with the most recent voted on policy of record, which would be that illegal one. But I think you make it a urgency and you have a wellness committee
Yeah.
meet.
And we have time, it is urgent, but I mean, as far as,
Yeah.
we've had free breakfast and lunch for 2 years.
Right, right.
So we don't have to wrestle with any account balance issues.
Right.
Can I ask?
Did that answer your question? Oh, I think Karen wants to.
She has to come up to the microphone.
Would you mind coming up here just so we can hear you a little better? Sorry.
Well, I think that people can't hear her
Yeah.
from back there. either.
What?
I said people can't hear her
don't
unless
think
she's
Oh, yes,
them.
no,
Jesse's in there going,
I have the most recent copy of the wellness policy for what we did in, it looks like 2019. I don't see any language in here that talks about anything about consequences of not paying.
That's a separate document.
It's a separate
Okay.
document and
Yeah.
should have been put into a separate policy, and I think it was
Okay.
EDF. And maybe we never split the two, but
I think we did.
it should be two separate things.
So on the note of convening the wellness committee, is there a school committee member that would volunteer to be a part of that? Because I don't think we have a school committee member at this point. There's supposed to
I'll
be-
do that.
Okay.
But we'll go back to that after we finish this vote, I think, just so we don't lose our.
So there's vote on the floor to what?
There's a motion on the
Table.
floor to approve Section A tabling ADF and ADDA. Then Tammy just asked how to go backwards on ADF, so we should probably finish our motion and then, or does that change your, okay. All right, so the motion is to approve Section A of the
As
school
amended.
committee policy manual, tabling ADF and ADDA
as written.
as written on the copies that everyone has for mostly MASC recommended. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
You're all gonna miss that.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so that is unanimous.
you.
As written. And then just to backtrack we're still working on ADF. That's the conclusion. And I can do the wellness, or if anyone else wanted to, just to give you a name, Matt. I don't,
I won't fight you.
No one's fighting you.
are we following the last, the last policy that it says here, it has to consist of one parent or guardian, a student, nurse,
Yeah, Karen, that's
School
what
food
we
rep.
had, right?
Yeah.
That is
committee
what we
member,
had.
school admin.
That's what
Okay.
we had. And Aaron, it's not, I mean, it absolutely can be you. It's not usually you because you serve on every subcommittee.
I know that, I know.
So
I was
it
just-
should be a school committee
It was
with another
something I-
person, but
Had done before the last person, that's why I was saying that.
it's. So if somebody else wants to do it with Aaron, that'd be great. But if not,
Did you say
it's just
Jack did it
Aaron.
last?
Yeah.
Did.
Following Jack's footsteps.
I'll do it with you.
So that was 4 years ago, just.
Right?
Yeah.
I didn't know
But-
if Jack did it
yeah,
as a school
'cause-
committee member or a student.
No, it was
school.
He went
a
from
student.
student rep to school committee member
Yeah,
to now
Teacher?
employee.
employee.
I'll confiscate his notes on the matter.
Read the Pony
All right,
Express,
so
it's all
replace
done.
my name with Dan.
I
Okay.
said I'd do it with you.
Yeah, yeah, you did. Yeah, add both.
That's fine. We're
All right.
not that easy.
Moving on to report of the superintendent.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. A few items tonight under my report. The first, we're going to start with a brief update on our COVID-19 situation, and we're going to turn it over to Karen, who is going to share where things are with numbers, and this will most likely be our last discussion on it for now, anyhow.
Because
So,
Dr. Fauci said today,
it's done.
it's not a pandemic
It's
anymore.
over. So, no, but Karen will give an update on numbers, and when we start discussing the manual, there's really not a lot to discuss after this point. But Karen, why don't you take it away?
Just one last thing on the wellness committee. We do have all the people in place other than school committee members, so now we have that in place. So I'll reach out to Maureen and see if it's possible to do anything quickly before the end of the year.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
So as far as COVID, numbers are creeping up as far as positivity and incidence in the whole state. For the year, we are now up to 623 cases. There have been 26 so far in April. 133 at the high school, 166 at the middle school, 185 at the complex, 125 at Millville, 14 in the district. Vaccinations haven't really changed much. Overall, Blackstone is now at 60% and Millville hit 50%. It stayed at 49 for the longest time, but it is finally at 50%. By schools, the high school is at 59%, middle school is at 47%, complex at 29%, and Millville is at 17%. The handbook, basically, it's just mostly the health office and the protocols that are still in place until CDC and DPH tell us that you no longer have to quarantine or isolate and that kind of language.
And that, none of that has changed yet?
No,
Not
no,
as of late, okay.
no.
So if there is the need to revisit, it would essentially just be on those couple of issues, the quarantining and the,
Yeah.
okay, isolation.
Unless for some reason things
Something
got
else
bad
happens.
and we don't even want to think about that,
Right.
there were more measures that we needed to re-implement. But I'm not foreseeing that happening.
And in addition to that, effective May 9th, and it's not actually in the handbook, but it was part of our reopening conversations and our reopening language with our teachers, with our Unit A and Unit C staff. But on May 9th, we would like to take that last final step and have the kids back in groups and the cafeterias back to normal. And as of now, our students are still rows facing the same way, similarly in the cafeteria, spread out 3 feet, facing the same direction. We'd like to get the CAFs back in place, and we'd like to get the classrooms back in groups. And we picked May 9th just because that's the start of the third week after the vacation, so we thought we'll give it the 2-week window and just kind of get any cases that might pop up between now and then. We can identify those. So a week from Monday, we'll go back to regular student groups and regular cafeterias, and that was kind of the last piece we had in place.
I just want to ask a clarifying question. When you spoke of the towns and the vaccination rates, you're speaking of the town, not our schools, not just students. It's the full town.
Yeah, the 60% for Blackstone and 50% is the overall rate for all people living in those towns. Yeah.
Any other questions for Karen? Very much.
Thanks,
Job
Karen.
well done. For 2+ years.
It's been a long 2+ years.
Yes,
and
it
yeah,
has.
and hopefully this is my last injury or surgery. And yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Karen. The next item on under my agenda is to just talk a little bit about our upcoming end-of-year surveys. As you know, we annually survey families, students, staff, to really get a sense and to get essentially feedback on how we're doing as a district in terms of the perceptions as they relate to us moving towards our goals. I think the committee will recall that over the past few years, we've seen a very large increase in the participation rate, which has been great. I think the first year we issued the survey, I want to say maybe we had 60 people take it as far as families. And so we have clearly increased that number quite a bit over the past few years. We've also really shortened the survey. The first survey was 3 or 4 pages. There were quite a few questions. Last year, the survey we sent had 10 questions. It didn't necessarily capture everything we were looking for, but it did get a good participation percentage. So we are gearing up now. We're reviewing all the surveys to make sure that we're getting the right information back from families. And then one of the really important pieces about that is there is a way in the survey that makes the feedback specific to the school or to the district as a whole as it relates to a particular office. And that's great because we actually can take that feedback, it's customized, and we can work with a specific building if we see patterns and trends emerge through the results of that. So I just wanted to share with the committee this evening that we are hard at work at finalizing the next round of those surveys and getting those out very soon. They will go out during the month of May because we want to make sure that we have time to work with the staff before the school year ends with the actual feedback from our families and school community. With that, we are also looking at another round of what we're calling a family choice survey. And we are thinking creatively how to do this, but we want to get feedback. I know we've talked about this before, but our most recent number, up-to-date number of students, kindergarten through 12th grade, who have choiced out of our school system. Now, I want to be clear, when I say choiced, I'm referring to all other educational opportunities. I'm not just talking about I live in Blackstone, but I decided to go to Uxbridge. So we're talking vocational, technical, we're talking private, charter, all of the opportunities that families have outside of our school district. We have about 325 students, K through 12, that are choosing a different educational opportunity. And as you know, we have about 1,550 students. So that's about another 325. So what we are looking to do, and it's tricky, believe it or not, but we are trying to get all of, or as many of, the email addresses and contact information for all of these families, because for some it's been a while, and their files are inactive in Aspen, and the information isn't necessarily up to date as far as their address and contact information. So we want to issue, and you might recall we did this a couple of years ago, and we got 25 responses. which wasn't a lot, but we're going to do it again and see if we can get feedback. Because if you remember the last time we did this, a lot of the feedback was around curriculum. And it was around the district not having up-to-date curriculum, and not necessarily having the right resources in the hands of students. And I know that this committee knows that we have been relentlessly focused on the teaching and learning work, and over the past few years. So that can't be said any longer. It just can't, I mean, it's not valid. We've spent a lot of time, effort, energy, and resources on the up-to-date, cutting-edge curriculum that our teachers and students are using. So I'm very curious to hear and see what type of feedback we get from that. But along with that, we also are very interested in focusing in on students who are not choosing to leave, because they are choosing us for a reason. And we really want to capture that feedback. And so we are working on crafting a survey that will ask families, you chose us. We love that you chose us. Tell us a little bit about why. What is it specifically that that made you? Because at the end of the day, the families have options, and that's just not going to change. So we just have to continue to get as competitive and remain as competitive as possible.
Will you survey? You did at one point, maybe not survey. I think you did focus groups, but. Will you ask those questions of the students themselves?
That's who we're going to survey.
Okay.
Yeah, we're looking at asking the students to actually take that particular survey. The focus groups we have done this year have been incredibly eye-opening, and we did a round in the fall, and we're doing a round now with the seniors, particularly as it relates to our next strategy or blueprint, our district improvement plan. And the feedback we're getting from the students is incredible. It's right now we're meeting with just the high school students. So the high school team is already moving to put some of the recommendations that the students are making in place.
Great.
So one of the things that we're hearing a lot from the students, and I know Jill Pilagalrani was in these conversations, but that really stuck with me was how focused the teachers are on the skills they're teaching, but the students are feeling that they're losing some of the content. Right, which to me says that, we're not doing enough of the storytelling with the actual skill building that we're doing. So and that was right from those are freshmen to seniors. It was a cross section of students in that group. So I know that Ms. Fowlis and the leadership team, the instructional leadership team at the high school is already working on that in terms of how to address some of that. And the students, what I really appreciate about this is the students are not only seeing that we're listening, but they're seeing that we're responding. Sometimes, it's great to collect feedback, but if you don't do anything with it, then what is the purpose in that? And people get turned off by that. So I'm really pleased about some of the action steps that the high school particularly has put in place right away to address some of that. So I just wanted to give a quick update.
Tammy, you have a question?
I just have a comment, actually. Jason, I think to the point of curriculum, though, so like if I pulled my kid in second grade because of my current concern for curriculum, then I most likely am not going to bring them back at least until sixth grade because I don't want to change schools midway and try out your new curriculum, so there's some sort of that it's just going to be multi-year thing. And I think when you get to high school, you have that same issue. If you don't start here, the transition to come back, not a lot of families are going to want to take that chance of doing that unless the experience where they're at isn't meeting their need, and they're like, okay, let me go back and try that. But I think it will be difficult to discern, like, okay, you didn't like the curriculum 5 years ago, your kid is now in fifth grade, but I didn't register in fifth grade because that's now their school, so it'll be hard to kind of tease that out.
Yeah, and one of the questions that we will be asking, and it might be framed a little bit differently than how I'm going to say it right now, but is essentially what would you need in order to return? Because exactly to your point, once you're somewhere for second grade, the likelihood that you're going to return before a natural transition in that grade, and if you're in a K to 8, you may not until high school, right? So what is the natural kind of break point when you would make a transition? And that's important information for us to collect too. Like, where might we be able to regain some of those students?
So is there opportunity with the charter kids, being that it ends at 8th grade?
I hope so. I'm not sure where the Ben Franklin charter students end up going after they leave grade 8. My sense is to a variety of places.
They haven't
They
get that
haven't left
far
yet.
yet.
Yeah,
They
right.
It's new, too new.
Our bubble is probably next year, when they.
It'll be
when-
eighth graders?
Well, some.
No, they have
kids
a
left in
middle
the
school already.
But when they expanded to
Okay.
eighth
Yeah,
grade,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
anyone that might have started K to 8 is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't.
When they doubled their enrollment that year,
Yes.
I think they will be eighth graders next year,
They will be.
But-
Okay. Wow.
you know. how
That's
we
also,
advertise.
we lost if you might remember, we lost a kindergarten. That was when we had a kindergarten really impacted an incoming K class. And we got hit very hard at the early elementary grades that one year, that bubble year.
And, yeah.
We have to have like a special open house for them.
Yes.
Because they're not getting it from this building. We bring our kids over there, but how do we get them back from?
It'd be interesting to see how many eighth graders are over there now.
Well, I was just thinking, it would be interesting to see if they're surveying the kids to see where they're going, because that's a very distinct possibility. And if we get in touch with them, we may be able to share that information. And then.
But we do know who those kids are, right? We know.
We do,
so-
yes.
We do.
Yep. Yeah, assuming they're still there, assuming that they
Right.
didn't leave to go somewhere else.
When someone leaves to go somewhere else, we know where they've gone?
Yes.
And we know, every year, we know where they still are?
No.
No.
We only know when they exited.
when they
That
exit.
initial exit, we know that they left to go to Ben
Wherever.
Franklin or whatever the school is. If
They've
they
been
leave
left.
there, we don't know.
Right.
So we don't have to follow them
We don't.
responsibly.
No, we don't follow them
I've
through.
never
Financially,
reported.
we're
They've
kind of
never
paying for
reported
that.
where.
The challenging, well, so the Department of Education tracks that
Okay.
through the student SACID number. So if that student, let's say the student went from here to Ben Franklin or to a
Franklin.
charter school, they're included in that charter formula for us. Let's say they leave there because their family moved to West Springfield and now they're going to West Springfield Public Schools. They're not in that charter formula anymore. They don't go there anymore. Correct. So they're totally out of the mix.
But we don't know
We
that
wouldn't know
they're
that.
out of the mix,
That's right.
or where they went to.
But the Department of Ed tracks that, and that all has implications on our budget, particularly if it's a charter school issue.
If it's a charter or a
Yep.
technical school, if they went to a private school, we'd have nothing.
Or if it's a school choice issue and they're our resident, they live in, go to school in Uxbridge,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
then
no,
they
I'm
move
talking
to Pittsfield, or
private
something.
school.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if a student leaves eighth grade to go to Mount, I'm just looking at Jane, and then in 10th grade, they move to Texas, are we still considering them at Mount?
We would think that they're still there. We wouldn't know.
Unless they told,
Yes,
so
that's right.
are
we
our
have to-
numbers correct?
Yes, those numbers are kids that are verified enrolled in those schools. So every district and school has to do that school, I'm going to call it a school attending report, but that's not the name of it, that's something else. Each year, actually, we do it a couple times a year. You do your verification of your enrollment in October and then in March, but then we do the school choice report in January. So there's 3 times a year where the state's getting district feedback that's kind of being fed up to the Department of Ed, where they crosswalk that information.
But we pay on October's number.
So what do we get from the Department of Ed? Like a list of everybody we should have? Like, I don't understand how.
No, we get that from each
they would
other.
know.
So the school attending reports we do, it's really quite interesting. What's the dog wagging the tail or the tail wagging
Yeah.
the dog, whatever that expression is, that's how it is. We feed all this information to the Department of Education, and we coordinate this information
With other schools
with
in
other
the
school
area.
districts, yes.
But I still go, if somebody who goes to St. John's in Worcester,
Yep.
how would you know
Did they start with us at one point?
at one point?
Then they withdrew at one point, and in order for them to enroll, that school needs their records from us. So in our student database, we code them,
As you
they're
sent the
inactive
records to blah, blah,
St.
blah.
John's prep school.
But if they left St. John's,
We don't know that.
no clue.
The Department of Ed knows that, though, when they get the school attending information. So
But
they
don't
tease all
get
of that out.
from private schools, or do they?
No, that they have to report student enrollment.
Private, St.
Some
John's in
capacity,
Worcester would,
yes.
or whatever.
But they don't give us that
But if they went into Rhode Island, they wouldn't know
information.
that.
We wouldn't necessarily know. And the information is never fed back to us.
No.
So we don't get that information
Yeah.
back from them.
So that excludes a lot of people. I mean, when we talk about Mount, I mean, we have LaSalle and Bishop Hendricken sort of drivable for in Rhode Island. We don't know who's there.
We know the students who left us to go. Did they
Right.
stay and finish? I'm not sure. Yeah, it's really, it's quite interesting. It's an interesting process for sure. A lot of moving parts. But we're going to do our best to get that information.
Yeah.
That we can.
That's
I think it's
why.
worth it while,
Yeah.
yeah.
The only other piece is, to this, is the homeschool families, which our numbers, of course, increased quite a bit. We were up to over 60 during the pandemic. We've got a lot of those students back. But it took us into, gosh, I want to say December, early January, to track down the students that didn't reapply for homeschool and didn't re-enroll in our school system. So technically, officially, we don't need to worry about them, but we did.
Yeah.
We tracked every one of them down. We found kids in Vermont, we found them in Florida, we found them in Rhode Island. They were all over the place.
Are they included in that 325?
No,
or
they're a
So
separate bucket of kids.
Different number?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we will be reaching out to those families too.
It's scary though, because if the kid is a non-attender and sort of got homeschool, and then they could just not attend school
You
and
ha-
no one would know.
Listen, and Jill's smiling because we have,
like,
we have
I'm just
tracked
thinking
down
about
kids
those
to find, like,
people.
we have gone to knocking on doors, trying to find homeschool kids in our two towns. That we take that very serious because you don't know where that kid could be. You don't know what could have happened. We make sure to lay eyes on every single one of those students, and they're not technically even ours.
Well, I thought they had to apply every year.
They do.
To you.
They do have to apply, but some families don't reapply, and then they decide not to do homeschool, and they go to Bellingham. They don't ever tell us that. So we have to find them. So we keep a database, our own spreadsheet of homeschool families. It's a whole nother piece. And thank goodness for Sarah, our district social worker, because she's out pounding on doors she was in the fall, trying to find families. It's a lot. The homeschool piece is a whole nother thing we never even talk about, but it is a ton of work for students to make sure that they're safe. That's, Tammy, exactly to what you just said is exactly why we do that. Because otherwise they're off the radar and things could be off the rail and we would never know. But we always follow up on those. So just wanted to make sure to mention that those will be coming out soon. And as I normally do, the school committee will get the links for all this stuff before it goes out, so you can get a sense of what's going out to the community. Next, I just want to touch briefly on our summer programming. As you know, we start this work in February, and this year's programming doesn't look hugely different than last year, but there are some nuances that I wanted to mention. So in your packet, there's just a quick overview, kind of a half-page sheet that looks at the different categories of programming for this summer. And all of these are still under construction, so they're all pieces that we're still working on. Of course, we have our extended school year program, as we always do for special education. This year, we will have at Millville Elementary, which we're really excited about, a very focused and targeted literacy and math tutoring program for families to be able to opt into. And we're looking at a different opportunity where we're going to do 2-week sessions with a little break in between and then a 2-week session so that families don't feel that, hey, my kid's 6, this is too much, it's a lot. So we're looking at the programming not only from an instructional place, but also a developmental, like what makes sense for a 6-year-old in the summertime, and how do we break that up. The tutoring will also have, although it's listed here as math and literacy, it will also have movement activities and like phys ed and stuff, so we can get the kids out moving and playing, and so we're excited about that. At the JFK AFM complex, as you know, we have our 21st Century grant. So we are in year 2, summer 2 of that. And that will be a very robust 6-week program, 4 days a week. We'll have the partnership with the Boys and Girls Club again. So we'll send the shuttle bus down to grab the kids at the club and shoot them over to the school so parents don't feel like they have to pick. That was a really that made a big impact in a positive way in the Boys and Girls Club and for us. It was just, again, like just a really nice partnership. We've done a lot of great work with them, but it gave their staff a little bit of a reprieve when the shuttle bus shows up and like 25 kids jump on. The groups get a little smaller for a few hours. So it gave the kids a break. It kind of get them out of the club for a couple of hours to come in and do some work and then go back. So that worked really well. The other part I'm super excited about, we wrote a grant for $16,000 to pay our students, our high school students that are interested in education or that just want to work this summer and that are interested in working with us to work in our 21st Century program. So we wrote a grant for 10 students. We have to pay the minimum wage, which is $14.25 an hour. And I included in the grant proposal training time for the students so that they can come before the school year. They can go to the after-school 21st Century program, get to know the students, the teachers, the principal. We'll do an orientation with them. And then they can work the 8 to 12:30 summer hours, which a few of the students we've already talked to are really excited because they waitress at night. So like, this is perfect. I can, work 8 to 12:30, go home, take a break for a couple hours, and go in for 5, that kind of thing. So we're really excited to be able to offer that.
Was that offered to any student, or juniors, or seniors, or?
So we targeted juniors and seniors, even seniors that are leaving.
Okay.
But we also, through our Blackstone Superintendent Consortium Collaborative, I also opened it up to if we have students in other districts. Like, so for instance, we have a student in a local district that ran a photography club in our after-school program at the 21st Century After-School program in the fall. He was a senior, and he brought all of his own equipment. He wrote all of his own curriculum, and it was, the kids were climbing over each other to get into this club. And so we did a couple of rounds of it. So like, we would bring him back and pay him.
Sure.
So now he can actually run it and get paid through our grant. And he'll be off to college in the fall. So we did open it up in case we couldn't fill all 10 seats from our own system. But obviously, our students would have preference. So we're really psyched about that. We will have the credit recovery options for the middle and high school, as we have. But we're doing something a little bit different in that we also are working with our staff to offer, I'm going to use the word club or camp, but we may not call it that. But for instance, we may have a interest from our students and from one of our staff members to run an esports camp for a week. So we could run, we could set that up, and we have the students that are interested, and we have a staff member that's interested, and we could run an esports club, an arts club.
Does that fall into the enrichment one?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, under the enrichment. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I transitioned to that.
Me too, I was like,
You
credit
can tell this is the
recovery,
stuff I like talking about.
Credit recovery, I get to go play esports, this is
Like, I'm like,
fantastic.
what am
I thought I made a transition.
What am I recovering?
This is the good work. So we're, through the enrichment, thank you, Tammy, for the segue. Through the enrichment piece of the programming, we're looking to offer stuff that the students want to do. Some of the activities and clubs that they're passionate about. The idea is to keep kids engaged, keep the students engaged, keep them with us, keep them interested, and really try to tap into some of the things that they want to do. And not just see this as stuff they have to do.
Can the current 8th graders do those
Yes.
enrichment things?
Yeah, we talked about that with the instructional coaches. They're helping to coordinate all of this. So we're looking at that transition year. And at the second grade, we're gonna do the work at MES because they'll be there next year. But we're looking at the 5th grade doing their work with the middle school, and the 8th grade doing the work with the high school.
Right.
And will it be like there'll be a minimum for each group?
For the
So
enrichment?
that,
Yes,
so you
yeah.
don't have one.
It'd be one standard, like you would have to run it at least Monday through Thursday, 8 to 12, like something like that. Yeah. So we're really excited about that, and trying to offer some fun things for students to do, particularly our older students that, idle hands. I don't know. I have a middle and a high school student, so for me, I'm trying, I get it.
You haven't made them get jobs yet?
I
don't
think
have
something
jobs?
else we've talked about a
The
few
older one
Jay
times
should have.
The older one does, yes.
Okay.
is even the
he's
social
doing.
piece, keeping them
Yeah.
connected in the
Absolutely.
summer from coming off of last year. I think that will be important too.
Agreed. That's actually a really nice transition to the next piece, which is our at-risk student programs and follow-up. So for the students, and we've referred before, and we've spoken about students that are demonstrating those tier 3 behaviors. So those that are most at risk for what? Well, for getting in trouble, for not moving on to the appropriate grade. Students that, may have food insecurity. They may have issues at home and that, where the stability just isn't there. So our social worker, as you know, works 12 months. And part of what she is working on now with our guidance counselors and staff is we've identified the students, we're building the programming, and then it's placing the students into the programming, and then the follow-up and follow-through from our district social worker with these students all summer. To making sure that those students, again, we've talked about it before, that when they come back in the fall, we don't want to have that dysregulation and have to do that huge reset, as you know, as school districts tend to have to do. So we're really looking forward to working with those students and families to find out what they are interested in, set them up on their summer plans, and then our district social worker will be following up on those plans all summer long to make sure that students are attending and they have what they need. We are continuing to work with the Boys and Girls Club, and we're going to keep that partnership going. We're meeting with them again on Monday to finalize.
We're having teachers there still?
Teachers and
is Bellingham
counselors.
still,
I have not got commitment from them yet, but that doesn't mean that they won't commit. They're, you know, looking through their own programming to let us know. But we did have some really nice outcomes from that. I don't know that we'll be able to staff it to the degree that we did last year. We had 2 counselors and 4 teachers. Again, Bellingham split the cost with us, 50-50, because, you know, about 150 of the students are ours and about 100 are theirs. So we just split the cost down the middle for our staff, and they service kids from both towns, which is great. But we have committed to some version of that. One of the things we heard from Bruce and Sarah was one of the most critical parts. The kids loved the teaching and learning piece and the projects and the hands-on, and they really, really did. But the therapeutic, like our clinical staff being over there all summer, made a world of difference in terms of working directly with the students. Because some of the issues are significant, and you know they have a lot of high school students and college students that aren't necessarily equipped to deal with some of the conflict resolution stuff that they need to do, and our counselors loved it and did a great job, and were able to really build like incredible relationships with those students. So
They came in and gave us some examples.
Yes,
And
yeah.
so I don't remember her name, but I feel like there's some staff that would want to return. They were very.
they seem to really
yeah.
enjoy it.
they
yeah.
did,
They did.
yeah, they definitely did. The Acceleration Academy, moving on, and the Jumpstart, we're waiting for the Department of Ed to release the grants for that again. Remember, we started the school year a week early for students, or some students. We had great participation from students, and we had great participation from staff. People really seem to like that. We've actually heard from the faculty if we're going to bring that back. And I know specifically from talking with some parents that that was very valuable, having the students start the school year a week before everybody else, before the other students came back in. So I reached out to the Department of Education liaison for that grant a few weeks ago. He did say because we successfully wrote the first grant, we do have a good chance at being funded again, but he said it is highly, highly competitive this year. But that's okay. We're gonna, when it's released, we're gonna write it again and see. That was a big grant. We got quite a bit out of that. So we will go for that again. And then lastly, the athletic opportunities. I just wanted to share quickly that we are looking at running different athletic camps and clinics for students over the summer that may be run, we hope, by some of our captains. It's almost like captains' clinics. And some of our staff. I know that I'm going to do a running group for anybody who's interested once a week and want to go for a run. I see you're all snickering and looking away, so I don't know if anyone on the table want to do it. I'm laying out all my routes now. I got all kinds of, I've found which ones that I can avoid, the chickens and the roosters, and yeah, truly, it was some interesting, the turkeys and the deer, and
Just don't tell
You've
anybody.
got a wheelchair that somebody can.
Maybe booby traps out there.
I know, exactly. No, I switch up on purpose.
Right?
But it's really important we get students, and I think particularly the younger kids, to connect with our high school students, have them run some of these captains' clinics, and really get our AD involved and plugged into the town athletics. We need to start building a pipeline,
So the running, last year was a record low year for cross-country in our schools. So you should
We need to
try to recruit and get some kids. I know a few that They need to be part of that club.
Please send them my way. Yeah, that'd be
Running
great.
with Dr. DeFalco.
There you go.
It's like,
Oh my God.
Or running from Dr. Or running from Dr.
No, yeah,
Listen, I
running
can
from-
hardly keep up with my sophomore at home, so I think I'll be chasing after them, you know, but, yeah.
He's a track star.
He's very good.
Yeah, he is.
So it'll be really great to get other coaches and to the degree that they can, and our captains, and, you know, get out there. And I think, Aaron, I think I was talking to you about it, but get out there in our BMR stuff. Like, get out, you know, how neat to see, you know, a group of 10 kids running through, you know, Blackstone or Millville with the BMR t-shirts, right? Like
A
that,
few weeks
get
in, it
out
will
there.
turn heads.
Right.
Be like, wait, this is
Yep.
repetitive, you know? So-
Or see, you know, driving by from work at 5 o'clock on a Wednesday, and you see a group of young kids on the soccer field with our high school kids. Yep. I mean, we've
Or
got
those
to
newly
get to
painted
that.
tennis courts.
So
horrible right now.
that is, as you can see, we have a lot planned for
Yeah,
the summer
yeah,
so far.
that's great.
And it'll be warm enough by then to make
It'll
sure
be,
that they're
there'll be no
painted.
excuses.
No
Be
excuse.
too hot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
right.
right, it'll melt.
I don't do the work.
Just the best.
And there'll be more details to come on all of this, but just wanted to give an update on where that stands. So any parents who are tuning in, we have a lot of programming for kids this summer for students, so don't hesitate to reach out over the next few weeks if you want to learn more as we're building the programs out. The next item is the annual bi-county collaborative appointment. This is the school committee appoints me to sit on their board. And the Bi-County Collaborative, for those that are newer to the committee, is our special education collaborative that we have joined forces with, I don't know, I think there's 15 or 16 or something other school districts across 2 counties that service a lot of students that need something more than what we can provide them in our district. And that is one of our, not the only, but it is one of our out-of-district opportunities that Ms. PG and her team looks at when we have students that need something beyond what we can service here. But I do serve to represent all of you on their board. So I needed the committee to reappoint me to that board.
Move to appoint Dr. DeFalco to the Bi-County Collaborative.
Okay, motion made by Jane. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Second by Dan. Any discussion on appointing Dr. DeFalco to the Bi-County Collaborative? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Great. Do you mind just signing that? I'll take care of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then the last item on my report, I will just want to give a update to the committee on where we stand regarding school safety. And I know we talked about this a couple of meetings ago, but I do want to highlight a few things just again because they're important and they're coming up soon. And where the administrative team, the principals, in partnership with our local law enforcement have done incredible work in preparing families. It doesn't necessarily always mean that everybody has been paying attention and remembers that we're going to be doing some of these drills. So I wanted to just touch on them this evening, and then of course can answer whatever questions you might have on any one of these if you do. The first, that's listed as elementary tabletop drill. That, if you recall, is the school intruder talking the students and staff through a scenario and helping the students and staff figure out in their classroom spaces, you know, would they barricade a door? Would they be able to safely leave the classroom? And if you remember, we've done this at the high school already, we've done it at the middle school. We took a lot of time and had a lot of conversation to think through how do we do this with the elementary students? Because it's different, and we don't certainly want to frighten anybody. We just want to make sure that everyone's prepared. And so, if you remember, we did almost like a public service announcement where Officer Loudon and Officer Gould, our 2 school resource officers, worked with some of our students, our ambassadors from the complex, and they did a classroom, and they modeled exactly what this scenario in the tabletop drill will look like and what it will sound like. That went out to parents, and then there was a Q&A, a virtual Q&A with the principals and the school resource officers to ask any questions. We had, I think it was 11. Was it 11 or 8, Miss PG? Yeah, it was between 11 and 8, but most of the people were our people.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, I think there, well, yeah, maybe you went in and out, Jane. I think there may have been one or two actual parents. And the drills are tomorrow. So the parents have been notified, it's been in emails a couple of times, another reminder went out tonight. The video went out, the training to the Alice training, the safety training went out. We've been communicating a lot about it. I sent out in a one-call email to everybody. We've talked about it now twice here. So I just want to mention it again. It's tomorrow, in case anything is to bubble up from that. The second is more involved. The second item is the intruder response drill that we are doing at the high school. And we're doing this in partnership with our local law enforcement, EMTs, fire departments, first responders, town administrators, school department. This is a coordinated response where we are going to, in June, sometime in June, we have not set a date yet, we will actually run a school intruder drill, not just a tabletop scenario where you talk through the scenario, but actually where students have to respond, i.e. exit the building at some point. And go to our reunification site. And we are doing that because, as you know, our mantra is not one of panic. We don't panic, but we just prepare. We just need to make sure that our students and staff are ready for any possible scenario. So on Tuesday morning, this upcoming Tuesday, May 3rd, at the Blackstone Library at 9:30, and I think Erin will be in attendance as well, we are going to have a joint meeting with all of these first responder agencies, the town administrators, school department leadership team, and police chiefs and SROs from our surrounding towns that would be first responders, to go through exactly what the scenario and the drill would look like, and that we'll be doing in June. Myself, Matt, Ms. PG, Jill in the back, and the two resource officers actually wrote the scenario out. That we're going to review with the police chiefs and fire chiefs and everybody on Tuesday. And again, it's not a panic kind of situation. It's reading over a PA system. We have an intruder in the building. They're on this floor, this section of the wing. Please, take your next appropriate steps. And so for some students and staff, they can leave the building and go to the reunification site. Like we need people to practice this stuff so they understand how it works. It also gives us a chance to see how, as Jill, as the reunification commander, right, at our reunification site, it gives her and our staff there a chance to respond. Like, what does it look like when 300 students come down and we got to get them organized in this scenario in this way? And we're going to have staff go to the reunification site as parents and give them a just random list of 15 names trying to dismiss students. Can we find them? Do we know where they are? Did they make it there? If they're not at the reunification site, are they still back in the building? So this is going to give everyone a really good opportunity, and we're going to do it slow. So it's not like this panic. The police aren't going to fly in with their sirens on and those kinds of things. But it will give us a chance to see, how does this actually all come together? The chiefs and I have talked a lot about this, and we need to see how each other responds.
Well,
I need to see what they're doing. They need to see what I'm doing. We need to see if these plans are actually going
And
to,
to see,
right?
right, and to see who's in charge and to see if they communicate with these other agencies who are local and
Yep.
so that everybody has the same information at the same time.
We need to see how that's going to work, and we've done a ton of training on our AED equipment and our first aid equipment and our tourniquets and stop the bleed kits and how to barricade and how to evacuate and but we need to pull everything together. So I know it makes people uneasy, but it's something that's really important. That frankly my sense is will become an annual drill that we'll do.
I think it'll be important to continue to do it because in my opinion, one of the most important aspects is the learning process. Mm-hmm. The debrief afterwards, we will be able to meet with the teachers and the students and process with them. What decision did you guys make as a classroom? Did you choose to lock in barricade, or did you choose that at that moment in time you were going to try to exit? Why did you choose to, go to a different exit? And it's just really, it's really great to have the kids process that and then learn from what it is that we're practicing.
And there won't be an actor in the building pretending to be any sort of way. It's not, we're just going to read the scenario and then let people calmly respond the way that they feel is best based on the information that we're providing them. Because that's all, at the end of the day, that's all people can actually do, is take the information they have and respond the best they can. So,
Will staff and students know in advance the day this is going to happen?
oh yes, everybody will know. We're going to do a reverse 911 call to the community. The fire department's going to put that out so that we don't all get inundated with calls like, why are there 200 kids walking down the street? Someone just ran through my backyard.
Will a parent whose child may completely de-escalate in this process be able to pull them out
Yes.
of the process?
We did that with the tabletop drills too. We made sure that there was enough notice that parents could, if they chose, they could dismiss their child early or not send their child. We only had a couple. And again, we've done it both at the middle and the high school. And the feedback we have received from the staff, and particularly from the police, which is very important feedback, clearly, is just how well our school community has done so far. So that's good. That means we're doing the right work as far as the preparation goes. And then the last is, Madison mentioned it earlier, I think she called it the car crash.
crash.
The mock crash.
Right, the mock.
We listed it as the prom safety exercise.
Yes.
So that is in relationship and in partnership with the Blackstone Fire Department. That's the training, the drunk driving training that they do. And this year they are going to do two pieces. They're going to do the actual crash itself, but then they're going to do the trial. They want to show kind of the before, the during, and the after, to show the students that yes, it's a heinous, horrific car accident, but oh, by the way, look at all of these implications. That ripple effect piece, they're actually going to go through all of that. And it is going to be on May 4th from 8:45 in the morning, I think, to 10:45. I think I have that time right. It might be 10 or 10:45. And we're doing sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And we selected the sophomores intentionally because they are starting to drive. So it doesn't need to be prom. It can be something else where they're engaging in behaviors that are very dangerous, like alcohol consumption. So we want to make sure that any one of our kiddos that could be on the road behind a wheel is engaging in this training. So just a few important safety pieces that my sense is will get some community conversations going, so I want to make sure that we've had a chance to discuss them again before we launch any of them. Are there any questions on those pieces? I know we've talked about some of them before, but.
No question for Jason?
That concludes my report.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to report of the business office.
Excellent. So for the FY23 update, I can say we are almost there. We just put together the budget book and published that. It had been coming together for a while, but it was published. I know that was shared with the school committee. Dr. DeFalco and I met last night with the Blackstone Finance Committee and discussed the budget, and it seemed to be very well received. And again, the feedback that we get is it seemed to go very smoothly because we've involved the towns right from the start in the entire process. There was no back and forth dialogue trying to understand what the process was or what we were, why we were prioritizing certain things, because we've had those conversations with the towns. In fact, I was having a dialogue with the town accountant from Blackstone, and she sent an email saying how smoothly it went, and that was a testament to the work that we've all been doing together. So that's terrific. And we are meeting with the Millville Finance Committee on Wednesday, May 4th, that evening. Hopefully, after the two meetings, the finance committees will support the budget and they'll move forward to the annual town meetings. And that is all I have for budget this evening for finance. I do have a facilities update report in your package. The softball and baseball fields are still being worked on. The dugout for the boys' baseball field is going to be attached shortly. The steel beams are there, and we are getting ready to put the roofing on. It's just going to be some overtime over a couple of weekends for some of our custodians. We are slightly behind on the girls' field because we need to get a new concrete slab poured in for a foundation up by their dugouts. We got some additional costs for that, and we're going to be contemplating what our options are for putting a foundation. We may do a concrete slab, or we may try to create something else. We talked about maybe that deck tracking, some type of poly, plastic type material, just as the floor base. So I'm not sure. As long as Scott.
My husband's in the business, I'm laughing at how much that is gonna cost.
Yeah, that might cost less than this. That might cost more than having the cement poured.
Probably will.
It's possible. But Scott is evaluating the costs of the different options right now, and we're gonna try to get that done as quickly as possible. The other thing is, we did have the fields all raked and cleaned up, and as happens all the time, we've had a lot of rain. There's been some growth. Some of the topsoil has been matted down, and we're working on getting that tilled up and clearing out any of the growth that's happened in the fields, and that should be taken care of. The tennis courts, as we all know, we are waiting for 5 consecutive evenings of temperature above 50 degrees. And we have been told by the company that we are the first on their list as soon as that happens in New England, that we have those 5 consecutive 50-degree evenings. And we were also told, because it has been a question from the committee before, how soon after can we resume? And I stated that I was relatively sure that it was pretty much the next day, but Scott did reach out to the company and did confirm that as soon as it's sealed, it can take place the next day. And they have told us that they'll come on weekends, evenings, whatever it is, to get it done as quickly as possible as soon as we hit that temperature threshold. At the high school, we did have the issue with the circulator pump for the heating system. That has been ordered, and we're just waiting for the new circulator pump to come in. And we have another circulator pump that's functioning, so there's nothing that's in danger of not working right now. But we need that backup pump put in place to make sure that we have that extra security feature. And that should be taking place through the summer, and we'll be ready by the next heating season. Similarly, we are still waiting on a repair kit for the circulator pump at this school, at Hartnett. And we've been going back and forth with the plumbing company, the plumbing company, because there was some issues that came about after they did some repairs. Now we're kind of in a discussion as to whether or not all of the damage that was done or the issues that came up should be covered under their original warranty of the warranty of their work. But they're arguing that they didn't put the pump in initially, so the parts aren't warranted. And we're having some conversations, and I will say, as I'm sure the committee is aware, this piece has been on there for a while. And we're disenchanted with it as well. And I will say that I do have Scott looking into a few other companies to see what other alternatives we have moving forward, because we can't keep running into this type of a time delay. So we are going to move it as quickly as we can, but we don't want to keep running into that type of an issue. The MES pump is taken care of, and that is a tremendous relief because we were needing to station someone at the building 24 hours a day, and that has been repaired and it's been tested and everything is set, and that's going to be going back. That's going to be online, and we have no issues, and people are going to stop working overnight. There's also included on your report an update. I know there were some questions regarding the facilities requests forms. We've made some changes to the process. That's outlined in this. I had Scott confirm all of the questions and thoughts that we had about what happened with the 2 different organizations potentially being overbooked. As it turns out, they had spoken with one another. The organization that was looking to use the fields at the same time as the football program, they were aware of what days they could use it. Scott also found field space at the high school that he offered to them, and as it turned out, they didn't need any of our field space. So all's well that ends well, and everyone.
And that space was the space to the left where the rock is, not to the right at the bottom of the hill.
Correct, it's
Well, when it says here
I'm sorry.
that the football team used, I just want to confirm which spot, because they were in the wrong spot for a little bit.
I'd have to double check with Scott where the discussion took place. It was supposed to be where they were practicing football briefly.
Beyond the
Beyond.
baseball outfield.
Yes.
But so before the
Yes.
rock, in front of the
Before-
rock, but
Not in
far to the
the-
left.
Not on the new fields.
Not on
Not on the
Thank you,
new.
Jane. I was trying to like,
Not on the new
the
fields.
baseball field.
Over
Which
where it
is-
was like the old baseball field
Right.
from a long time ago.
Yes.
They're not
This way
using the
over.
space, they're not using the space
Parks and Rec
anyway.
opened up
Okay,
the
right.
fields at the complex.
I want to be
so-
clear, they're not using the space. They did not need it. But additionally, as you can see, there were some additional pieces put into place for the process of the facilities requests. That's one piece that was a little bit detached from the rest of the facilities, and Scott and I have tightened up on that.
is there like an electronic calendar that's being used?
There is, yep.
Oh.
And so now we
We were said-
well, and so what ended up happening was
No, we were sent
people
it.
had used the
Not working.
calendar and it was worked out. We just weren't entirely sure, and
That it
those,
was worked
and
out.
Scott and I weren't directly connected in the loop of that process, because it was going from the building administration up to central office through the superintendent's office and into this committee. And now we made sure that Scott and I are copied on all of the requests and all of the approvals so that we can keep track and be in touch with these organizations as needed and make sure that everything's sorted out. And that has been working well so far.
Good, thank you.
And with that, we do have a couple of facilities requests that myself, Scott, Dr. DeFalco, and the entire district are well aware of. And you can entertain those to be approved. There's one from, I'm not sure still how to pronounce it, but Mepto. And we have
Not really a word.
and then we have another one, which I can't pronounce, which is from the town of Millville, looking to host their annual town meeting at the elementary school. So, not sure how you'd like to.
Okay, so looking for a motion for the facility requests.
So moves.
Motion made by Tara and second by Carrie. Any discussion? I think these are pretty straightforward. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, unanimous.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good thing the dance is Saturday.
That's the little kids, right?
I'm not on that committee.
All right, thank you very much. And moving on, we have school committee forum. In the past, we've just, if anyone had anything, they could, and long ago, we used to go around the table. Does anyone have anything they'd like to share tonight? For school committee forum? No? All right. Jane, this might be your last meeting again.
Yeah, I believe
We don't
the-
have
Where have
cake
we
this
heard
time.
that
I
before?
believe the Board of Selectmen in Millville is meeting on May 2nd, and
Monday.
hopefully you guys have been notified. And is the 2nd a Monday?
Yes.
It is Monday.
Okay, so on Monday, the 2nd, and there have people who have expressed interest, so there will likely be 2 new Millville representatives at the next meeting.
Yes. And Tara and I will be there
Yep, your
to
vote
fully
counts.
support that for you.
Your vote counts.
Did you send your letter in?
I did. not.
I'm like, wait, what?
Something tells me that Jane is one of those people going up in front of the board, Millville, on Monday to be reappointed.
That would be, I appreciate the time I have had to serve, and I have done my best.
You've
and
done a wonderful job.
You like your Monday mornings back, don't
She's
you?
ready to go.
I do.
Poor Jane.
I'm gonna call her in the morning on her drive-in
On the
now.
drive-in.
Stand
I
so much.
I used to do that. We'd talk at like 6:45 or something.
Well, we still have Wendy.
I
up
know,
there,
that's
so
it, you
never
gotta stay
know.
up there
She'll
with
be
Wendy.
back sometime,
You're
too.
both coming back.
I will return.
Bring your name tag with you.
I will return. Just want to
Um,
enjoy my daughter's
Yeah.
senior year.
Good for you. And with that being said, for our 2 new members, and hopefully after next Monday, we have 2 additional. I reached out to our MASC rep, which is Tracy. I have not heard a response back, but something dawned on me a few weeks ago that many years ago, Glenn
Kuchar.
Kuchar came out and we ran our own charting the course.
Oh,
So I said, geez, we're gonna have 4. And I've been looking at the dates for you guys. I don't know if you've signed up, but they're not close by. They're Western Mass. And so I reached out and explaining to her that we were going to have 4 new members by the beginning of May. And could we hold our own? And then when we did that in the past, the older members attended for a refresher. So hopefully that will work out, so you don't have to drive out to Western Mass. But I will keep you posted on that. I know she's busy with some superintendent searches, so I'm going to give her a little more time, and then Glenn is still around too, so I might reach out to him and find out if it's still an option. Even if they want to invite other,
yeah, and who's the Hardy, Jim Hardy? You could reach out to him as well.
who's that? What?
He's like
He's one of their
second in
agents.
command.
Oh, over,
Um,
under Glenn.
But he does, I think he coordinates now those with Dorothy, actually, I think.
Okay. Yeah, we have many people to ask, so just so
Yeah.
you know, I am trying. Thinking that, and hopefully it will be a date that we can all coordinate together and, spend a few hours maybe on a Saturday morning or something doing that. That was the only update I had. Last call for, so our next meeting is May 12th here, and then May 26th here. Going into senior week, the committee is typically invited to awards night, definitely graduation. National Honor Society induction, we usually get an invite for too, so I'd watch your emails for that.
Did that already happen?
No.
National
not
Honor
this-
Society? Oh, I thought that was.
This coming
I
up.
was gonna
Yeah.
say, do we have dates? Can we share when is graduation?
Why don't I send them all out in one?
First
Okay.
Friday.
Would that be helpful?
That would be very
First
helpful.
Friday in June?
I'll do one email
Yeah, I
with
don't
all the
think I have
dates,
it on my
'cause otherwise
calendar
it'll be,
yet.
is the 5th a Friday? You know, like, no, that's a
really the
Thursday.
It's
a second.
It is.
I don't know.
That
I'll
would
put
be
it in the update
appreciated.
tomorrow.
Okay.
Does that work? Okay.
Yes,
6 o'clock Friday.
That'll save everybody time.
usually. Actually, I do have one question about graduation.
That'd be great.
Or do we have a rain date this year?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'll
I
have to-
just,
I'll
I
check.
know I should have mentioned this way sooner than today,
okay.
but since last year, when we were just not going inside, I don't know, I think it's something that
Yep.
we should schedule years out, when we approve the calendar. But,
So never go back into
Yeah.
the gym?
yeah, that's just a thought. I've heard a few kids ask for that, just
A rain date. as
a
opposed to
rain
going
date as
inside.
opposed to an
Going
indoor
indoors.
ceremony. All right,
It
so,
rains for like,
well, you hope it doesn't.
You guys don't actually get to officially graduate.
You bring them back.
I mean, at some point you have to go indoors.
Yeah, I mean, last year there was someone like that was leaving on a plane the next day. Remember, it was like this
But there
like,
are some-
conversation.
We pushed,
like,
we
there
had to
is
delay
some-
it an hour, right? Didn't
Yeah, we
Like,
did,
just got
at the last
through,
hour,
and,
yeah.
That was so close. I was
Not
wiping
saying
off
that,
seats
no,
with the
I'm
towels.
I
Remember that?
remember.
I was
Yep.
like,
There are
We got
some
it, we did
schools
it.
that
We
do
did
it on
it.
their football fields, and they've always had a rain date. Medway, it's one of them. because they don't have the facility to fit.
Yeah, but
So-
people inside.
No, I think a rain date's fine, but I think at some point in time, you can rain date June, June 3rd's your thing, you can rain date June 4th, you could go the next, but at some point in time,
I think it needs
People
to
are
be
planning,
simple.
people are
Right.
planning vacations,
Right.
they're,
It
you know,
needs
you
to
can't,
be-
it's not a week-long
Like,
thing.
we're always a Friday night, so people will already have parties planned for Saturday, but in my opinion, it would need to be Saturday morning, 10 a.m., a firm rain date, but just a suggestion. All right, so we are moving into executive session, not to return to our meeting, so I will take a roll call, we'll close in executive session. A roll call vote to enter into executive session. Jane?
yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. Thank you very much.
Tara, are those from, do I need, are those mine?